I'm going down to Attica to, they have the country club in Attica, but they closed down the country club, but they have another restaurant in Attica. Yeah, we used to always go to the country club and they had great food, but yeah, but now they brought in a restaurant from the outside, which I did hear also is very good. So
Sometimes. Yes. You won't. Yeah, we don't have it. Really. If someone's not talking to me,
oh yeah, yeah. And then even when they reopened, we had a lot of dinners there. I remember one dinner we had there when we were going through a school assessment thing, and it was just their primary. They're just there's so many neat stories about that hotel. There's so many neat stories about Fountain County and all the things that went through there. And I love the pictures they have there of like Frank Sinatra and Crosby. And kids would go, why would they? I said, because 41 was the only highway between here and here. So anyway, I hope they get it going again. They're having a town council meeting today. I have a friend on the town council this evening, and that's first on their agenda. What to do now? There are a lot of people in America that have really been good about writing grants for preservation of buildings, and so I'm hoping that they'll be able to preserve that. Somebody else will and take it on because I've heard so many people say they miss it, and I know back in the day that. I know what I mean.
Does it have a hashtag to it? There's nothing there anymore.
No.
Okay, click on it.
I know, it makes me sad. And Attica is really working hard. The Harrison have put a lot of money into that. And they're really
Can you hear me now if I do that? Okay, good. Then you're okay. And that's the reason,
Check one, check.
good. You're there. You're so welcome. All right, bye-bye. Have a good day.
I saw Ed
Phyllis Bell on. Oh my God. Well, the link that I sent her, she said it's not working, and I said, let's just do this. Let's go to, and she said, I don't know how to do it. She doesn't know how to go find a webpage, so she typed youtube.com, and then we got there. And then she said, I can't hear you.
Oh, he was going up and down. I was looking at him.
She's like,
There we go.
He was going up and down the aisle.
thank you. You got your book here.
Thank you.
I sent you that, didn't I? That was just a day before, I think.
Oh, Ruby, if I'm not in the house, just leave me a message. If I'm not in the house, leave me a message. I'll just plan on tomorrow because I got a couple of other people.
Yeah, I think that is Friday.
What'd you say?
Yeah, we find it under a shade tree and we're good.
Hi, ladies. I don't know if it's time to start or not. What time is it? Woohoo!
I'm going to give a update on Suzanne because she said she might not be here for the doctor's appointment.
Okay.
She may still show up, but
Yes.
she gave me some logo.
Yeah, she feels a little bit better.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
I don't know. No one knows.
So good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
It's one of those cool mornings. I know some of you love it. Me, not so much. But I love fall days. I just don't like the cool mornings. Yeah. So I hope you've all had a good week. Busy, hopefully. I've been busy. I like being busy. I did go to the doctor this morning to get a flu shot, and I had an x-ray yesterday, and I have a stress fracture on the top of my foot. So I'm going to be wearing a boot. Yippee. And then easing into some new arch supports. He said my arch is the highest he's ever seen. I did it back in May when I hadn't walked and he said he thought that was the case. I started walking after a year, and I didn't start easily. I started like 7 days a week immediately. And it started bothering me just the top of my foot in May, June, July, and August. And now it is just really throbbing like crazy. So he said it's down like in the metatarsals. And I don't have trouble getting a shoe on, but now it's aching, up into the rest of my leg. So hopefully, he said really just wear the boot a couple weeks and, hopefully but he said since I've had it so long, he didn't know. So anyway, really that's my news. I've been busy this week, and my Navy chair arrived, and I'm getting ready to make a wreath, and when I make it, I'll come show you. I'll bring it and show you. I was looking, I can't hang a wreath on it's apartment rules, who knows why, but I can't hang a wreath on the door. But I thought I can hang a wreath on the inside of my door. So I went on Etsy and I was looking for something specific, and I found it, and it was $150. Yesterday, I bought the materials for $42, and I'm gonna make it myself. This one's a wire one with cloth and ribbon and tulle, and pumpkins, and I think it'll turn out real well. And has anybody ever done the wire ones? You just cut the strips of ribbon or material and then just tie them. And then I got a big sign that says Harvest Blessings, and it's going to be navies and kind of sage greens. So I think it'll be pretty, I hope. So I'm excited about doing it because I love to do it. I made one once before, but they're out of the small ones, and they've been out of the small ones for a long time, so I had to get a bigger one. So we'll see. I'll let you know. So you just tie them around. Right, each wire, just keep going, just fill it up, and it gets real full. And I use a combination of ribbon. I got some blue jean ribbon. I got some moss green tulle. I got some material that has the cotton. It's not strictly Halloween or anything. It's got the cotton balls, on it, material. It's kind of a moss green. And then you just cut your strips, tie them on, fill the whole wreath up. And then I bought a sign to put like in the middle that I'll hang. I've got some burlap to go on it. I think it'll be pretty. And I don't consider my labor because I love to do it. So anyway, I'm excited. I guess that's my most exciting thing for the next few weeks. So what's been going on with everybody else? Jan, we're glad to have you back. We've missed you. Yay. We're glad to see so many good faces. Any blessings or concerns? Ruby?
Hang on, so everybody can show us online too.
Thank everybody for donating to Rhonda. She was so happy. And she got a lot more stuff than she had before and better. She was just thrilled. So I'm so glad we made her happy.
I'm so glad you did that. And everybody contributed.
Just everybody. I mean, I had people, not always in this Bible study, but people from the church. It's wonderful. And the money that's left over, I'm going to buy her gift certificates to Kroger, I think. But I'm not going to give them to her all at once. I'm just going to give them to her, every couple of weeks when I take her to church. So she was thrilled.
That's awesome. Well, ladies, I don't have any pots and pans either. I didn't move any. I have dishes, but my cabinets are full of books.
I was just going to add that her daughter and son-in-law were there, and they were just amazed at all the things that this group and that Ruby had done to set Rhonda up again. So thanks.
Sue and I were just discussing before Bible study started, these are the things that we need to focus on, and the things that, the positive things that sometimes the world doesn't want us to hear in our spiritual class and racial warfare right now that's going on. It's so good to know that there is still such compassion and love in the world, isn't it? It just makes your heart feel good. Anyone else? Blessing, concern, prayers for Diana?
Hang on.
Taken me 7 weeks to get them. They had the progressives all messed up. They had to go back. It takes 3 weeks because they're glass. They're not plastic. And I finally got them yesterday.
Good.
Concern is that Kathy is with Helen. She's using a walker, and she has fallen. I told Helen that if Kathy falls, she's not to try and get her up. Call 911. But so far, she's doing okay. But she's going to be there for 2 weeks, so I'm a little concerned that she's going to, because Helen has to take care of her. I mean, it's just the way it is. And Kathy's my age. And so it's hard for me, I just want to kick her butt.
Right.
But
Very good.
I don't do that. Try and keep my mouth shut. I stay away. But yeah, she could do better for herself. So.
I'm glad to see Suzanne walk through that door.
Yeah, me too.
She's got some things to share.
We'll let you get your breath for a second and sit down, and then maybe you can share with us. No, we don't want that. I do know there's 3 people online. I do know Phyllis Bell is one of them. She's been listening to us and seeing us, so wave at the camera. I'm sure she's waving back. I haven't seen anybody respond. Oh, wait, yes, maybe. Yeah, Deb McGee just got back in, and looks like Sheila's on. So that must be Sheila, Deb, and Phyllis. There's 3 more that I'm not sure about. If you're online, send me your name so we can know who's watching. You want to share?
All right. Yesterday, the news was not good.
Closer.
What?
A little closer.
Yesterday, the news was not good. I got a PET scan, and then I saw the surgeon. And he had seen the results of the PET scan. And apparently I have cancer down my arm in the lymph nodes. He told me how many, but it was a large number. and the cancer in my breast has already grown some more. So he said, the problem that I have is that I'm old. At my age, what they want to do is to give me a very strong dose of chemo, which he's not sure that my body can stand that at my age, in order to shrink the lymph nodes in the cancer, and possibly radiation after that. And then he'll do the surgery. And he likened it to dandelions in your yard, that if you have a few in a little spot, you can take some spray and spray it on yourself and get rid of the dandelions. But if the dandelions are all spread out, you call ChemLon, and they come and they put a special spray on it that kills them. Well, I have dandelions all over the place, and I need strong chemo to get rid of it. But the problem is that if you put too much dandelion spray on your yard, it kills your yard as well. And if he puts too much chemo, it kills the organs of my body as well. And that's what they're worried about. And so they've got to balance my old organs with what they're going to kill of the cancer. And so they're going to zap me with major chemo. And they're going to knock me for a loop with that chemo. And then there's no assurance that I'm going to live through this. And that scares me. So today, after I have you wonderful people here, which will give me strength, I go to have a MUGO or MUGO scan on my heart to see how strong my heart is. And then they'll judge that from here. I don't know how soon they start that chemo. I'll find that out next, I suppose. I appreciate so much your prayers. It just makes me warm inside to know that you're praying for me. I don't know how many more meetings I can come to. I'm going Friday to get my hair cut short and a real light color so it's not so traumatic when I lose my hair. Because he said it's going to take care of my hair as well as my rest of my body. My son has bit the bullet and gone with me to the the PET scan yesterday, and he has panic attacks when he's around other people because of COVID. And he was sitting in the waiting room, and some woman was in there, and poor lady was hooked up to oxygen and everything, and she was coughing. And he said, "Mom, I've got to get out of here. That woman is coughing." I told him later, I said she was probably in there for lung cancer or something. So he had to go. And I called him when they told me, and it was going to be an hour and a half or something. I said, "You can go at my place or you can go home," and said, "Get back there in an hour and a half." So he did. So he's biting the bullet. But he did go with me to the surgeon. And he's going with me to the, when I'm getting a port Monday. and I have to go get a COVID test. That doesn't sound good. On Saturday. So, that's what I know so far. And again, thank you all so much.
Suzanne, we know you're strong. We know your faith is strong, and we want to be strong for you. We want to be strong for you, and you're going to have to tell us what you need. I mean, I know you need prayer, and lots of it, but we're all here to support you and care for you and love you in any way that we can.
Sweets. Don't bring me sweets. I will eat every drop of them. Oh, yes, but I don't know whether I can keep her. I'm scared of that.
We can all help you in every way.
The lady across the street said she'd walk him. Her.
Suzanne, I'm trying to find a Bible study or support group for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm so glad you came again. We love you. Well, that's kind of hard to talk and follow, isn't it?
Makes all of our problems seem pretty insignificant.
Well, instead of starting our lesson right away, let's laugh. We need some laughter, and you know what? I didn't get to the laugh part last week. And then I'm going to address something that Carol Abbey said, which I think is point on. So this says, the first older gentleman. My minister told me, you know you're not getting any younger. You need to start thinking about the hereafter. Second older gentleman. What did you say to him? First older gentleman. I said, I'm already doing that at least 5 days a week. Every time I go into another room to get something, I ask myself, where am I hereafter? Yeah. These are called far out thoughts. Light travels faster than sound. This is why some people appear bright until you hear them speak. Here's another one. If I agreed with you, well, I've heard this before, we'd both be wrong. Women will never be equal to men until they can walk down the street with a bald head and a beer gut and still think they are sexy. I used to be indecisive. Now I'm not sure. You're never too old. This is me. You're never too old to learn something stupid. Change is inevitable, except from a vending machine. Where there's a will, there are relatives. Isn't that the truth? That brings so many long-lost relatives out of the closet, it's not even funny. A man and his wife were having an argument about who should brew the coffee. I read this last week, didn't I? This one? No? Who should brew the coffee each morning? The wife said, you should do it because you get up first, and then we won't have to wait as long to get to our coffee. The husband said, you're the cook around here. You should do it because that's your job. I can just wait for my coffee. The wife replied, no, you should do it. Besides, the Bible says the man should make the coffee. The man started laughing. I can't believe that. Show me. The wife fetched the Bible, opened the New Testament, and showed him the top of several pages where it indeed said, he brews. People say you'll lose your mind when you grow older. What they don't tell you is that you won't miss it very much. Observations on growing older. Your kids are becoming you and you don't like them, but your grandchildren are perfect. You forget names, but it's okay because other people forget they even knew you. You no longer care to do the things you used to do, but you really do care that you don't care to do them anymore. You miss the days when everything worked with just an on and off switch. Oh my gosh. My sister got me an Echo Dot Alexa for And my son just rolled his eyes. He said, please don't tell me I have to come over and hook that up. I said, no, this is easy. I can read the directions. Well, I kept telling him to do stuff without realizing you have to say Alexa every time. So I got a little frustrated. You tend to use 4-letter words more often. What, when. Now that your husband is retired, you'd give anything if he'd find a job. I don't know how many of my friends have said that to me. Here's a woman walking up and down a church aisle, and she says, Zantac, Prilosec, Rolaids, get your antacids here. They don't make mirrors the way they used to. The ones I buy now are full of wrinkles. That was from Phyllis Diller. How many of you remember Phyllis Diller? Oh my gosh, was she not great about poking fun at herself? And that's what made her so funny, I think. I think when we can laugh at ourselves, that Fang, yeah. I think she was just hysterical. I just remember that hair going everywhere, and lots of times didn't she have that long cigarette thing? And yeah, she was good. She had some good ones. Well, and Minnie Pearl. Let me share a devotion today on courage, because we're going to talk about spiritual warfare and how we need to pray and have the courage to fight off the devil. Father, I am often afraid, and I wish you would remove the things that frighten me. Well, that would be too easy, and God didn't promise that he'd remove our temptations or the things that frighten us. But I know that's not how you work. The early church faced terrible persecutions, yet they didn't pray for the threats to end, but the courage to face them. Now, I want you to think about that in light of today. Because a lot of us, most of us in this country, are really frustrated about everything that's going on in our country. And I didn't think about not praying for things to end, and I certainly haven't thought about just praying for the courage to face them. May I follow their example. Please give me the boldness to turn the things that threaten me into opportunities for spiritual growth, put on my glasses, and for declaring my faith. When I'm frightened by the enormity of my problems, may I see them as opportunities to recognize that you are by my side. After all, if you took everything that frightens me, I would have no need for courage. Help me see beyond the immediate crisis and put my future in your hands, Suzanne. This is the safest place to be. Some good stuff today, ladies. Those of you who looked at the lesson. I was telling someone when I got up, or when I looked at it yesterday, because I did it this morning, I thought, oh, well, I don't even know exactly what spiritual warfare means, but I certainly know that what war means and how that we're battling right now, that same thing. And so I got to reading a little bit of this and looking up some definitions and kind of the imagery of spiritual warfare is displayed in a book of Revelation, when after the war in heaven, the beasts and kings of the earth wage war against God's people, and a final battle ensues with Satan. I don't know about you, but I feel like we're waging the worst war we've waged, at least in my lifetime. And more than one. That's just it. There are so many battles. I think we have taken our independence for granted. I think we have taken our country for granted. I think that when other people from other countries used to say this is the greatest place to be, that sometimes I'd think, well, why would they think that? And I think this is a valuable lesson for today. Carol mentioned that there's so much here in each of these lessons that I don't touch on everything because it would take us 3 hours. So we think that maybe if our discussion doesn't finish today, that's okay. We can carry on with it next week, and we'll just kind of approach things that way. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because when I look at these lessons, I will tell you, I feel overwhelmed in preparing them, and it takes me a long time. By the time I look up verses in this Bible, by the time I use my Serendipity Bible and my whatever the other one is I use, it takes me a long time. I'm using like 3 references to get some ideas for questions and things like that. Plus, there's so much to think about and so many stories. So my first question is, how is being spiritual like warfare? What are we fighting against? Why use this analogy? The devil. And the lesson spends a lot of time talking about the devil in various ways, but always as our enemy. And then from that, when he gets in our heart and our minds, we do things that we shouldn't do. Temptation, the death of your spirit. And so all of those are compared to spiritual warfare. A final word: be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. And everywhere I went to look up additional materials today, Ephesians 18 was everywhere. Be strong with the Lord in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor, and the Bible uses clothing often, metaphorically in the Bible. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. Because the devil, he is a wily one, isn't he? When my son was little, he was reading that and he goes, he's a willy one, Mom. He's a willy devil. Pray in the Spirit at all times and on every occasion. All times, every occasion. And that's repeated over and over and over again. Stay alert. Be persistent in your prayers for all believers everywhere. We cannot let our guard down. I have experienced firsthand that when you let your guard down, you let the devil in. And God never leaves us just hanging. He simply wants, he's there, he presents the problems, but he always provides the guidance. I was reading 1 Peter this morning, and he was saying, here are the problems, this, and then this is what you need to do about it. And it always, in some way, mentioned consistent prayers. I have something to read to you about God's armor, and since I'm not going to be in a hurry, I'm just going to go ahead and read it right now. It was in my Bible, and we'll touch on it later, but I turned to Ephesians, and there it was, and I was thrilled because I didn't know what that all entailed, God's armor. So here's what my Bible says. It says, the piece of armor, the belt, the use is for truth. Application, the devil fights with lies, and sometimes his lies sound like truth. But only believers have God's truth, which can defeat the devil's lies. He does lie. He's a liar. But we're taken in by that, aren't we? We might hate people, that's a strong word. We might really dislike people who lie, but that's the devil's number one way to get to you. And then there's the body armor, and that's to stand for righteousness. I think it's interesting, too, that this is a soldier. It's a soldier's clothing. That stands for righteousness. It says the devil often attacks our heart. Have you felt the devil attack your heart? Your heart and your mind, but your heart, the seat of our emotions, self-worth, and trust. God's righteousness is a body armor that protects our heart and ensures his approval. He approves of us because he loves us and sent his son to die for us. And then we have the shoes. I'm not happy about wearing that boot, girls. It's going to interfere with my look. Doctor knows me so well. He goes, it'll be okay.
You can bedazzle your boot.
So the shoes stand for peace that comes from the good news. It says the devil wants us to think that telling others the good news is a worthless and hopeless task. The size of the task is too big, and the negative responses are too much to handle. But the shoes God gives us are the motivation to continue to proclaim the true peace that is available in God, news everyone needs to hear. It's easy to become discouraged, isn't it, ladies? Especially when trying to explain to other people about your faith and about where you stand. And then we have the shield. I'll tell you another quick story that has nothing to do with this. My husband, my ex-husband, dear Dave, became a Cub Scout leader the first month we were married. Why did he do that? Because no other person volunteered. And he was young. He was 25 years old. And we had 8 boys whose parents dropped them off permanently. I mean, they were there for hours. And Dave did all kinds of things with them. They made Christmas cookies and the dough was all over the walls and just all kinds of fun stuff. And then they made shields one time, and I remember that. And they were fighting each other with them. But the shield stands for faith. And what we see are the devil's attacks in the form of insults, setbacks, and temptations. But the shield of faith protects us from the devil's fiery arrows. With God's perspective, we can see beyond our circumstances and know that ultimate victory is ours. I think using the imagery of the fiery arrows is pretty right on, because we always think of, and later on it talks about, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it talks about in one of these verses, the devil seen as a dragon, which is a kind of serpent, which I thought was interesting. Then we have the helmet, and the helmet stands for salvation. The devil wants to make us doubt God, Jesus, and our salvation. The helmet protects our mind from doubting God's saving work for us. I think I might need to go out and buy a hat. Maybe that's why ladies used to wear hats all the time to church. I miss that. And finally, our sword, which stands for the Word of God. The sword is the only weapon of offense in this list of armor. There are times when we need to take the offensive against the devil. When we are tempted, we need to trust in the truth of God's word, which is true. We, I feel right now, are on the defensive. I think that we are what they keep calling us, the silent majority. And I think we need to start taking the offense. It's easier sometimes to sit back and let someone come to you. And wars are won both ways. Any great commander will tell you that. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel that now is the time and place. We cannot just, and we sit in our little towns and whatever, you know, and we're kind of, what I want to say, disconnected. And I try not to watch the news so much because it's discouraging, yet I want to keep up with things that are going on. And it seems to me that we need to be very alert and very aware, because all of these things that are coming to our small towns in every way. We've experienced it here, we've experienced it lots of places. And so I have felt sheltered from like big things that happen in big cities. I've always felt really sheltered, and I like that feeling of a little town. But I am telling you, ladies, the devil is working every hour, every minute, every day to get at us, to work in us. It's kind of a depressing lesson, I'm sorry, but I see hope in this too. So when I looked up some things about the devil, it said he was seen as a predictable creature who will always seek to test man and incite rejection of God. A thief who comes only to steal, kill, destroy, and lie. A great dragon with continued rebellion, always. I would ask you, but you're going to be quiet, and I've already talked enough, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Where do you see the devil's schemes played out today? Suzanne?
In our country today, it has brought brother against brother. It has brought one human against another. And we see it every day in the news. It sees that our country and others are destroying the planet. And we see that happening in California and Oregon. We see our country that is moving toward civil war again. And we have lying, cheating going on all around us in business and up through politics. And on the media, on all around us. And we have to be discerning enough when we make our votes. And it's important that we all vote. Now you hear and you see, and you have to pray to God that you understand what's going on. If you want our country to survive and our world to survive. My son lives near Seattle, Washington. He is having problems breathing. And that's away from the fires. We will have trouble seeing our son today because of the fires. So we're getting a touch of it. Think about why the fires are worse this year than ever before. Why the icebergs are shrinking. Why the birds that we saw as children are no longer here. Use your vote accordingly.
And so we know that there are so many things going on in our world, but let's bring it personal to us. What have you been struggling with lately in your spiritual warfare? And you're safe here to say whatever you know me. I'm an open book. What are you struggling with right now? Because we all struggle. Is everything okay in your world? Everything hunky-dory? Everything, Diane?
I think for me, the pandemic has been kind of very much of a struggle, and I have at times, particularly when we were in lockdown, struggled with depression, which I typically don't, and it felt foreign to me, and you have to kind of fight against it.
Diana? Then could I get somebody to do the mic, because I think maybe Pam has, not quite yet, okay.
I've been struggling with my temper. You know, I have one. And it seems like the least little thing will set it off. And I'm not normally that bad, but I mean, I can flare in just like that at something really stupid. You know, it doesn't matter. If I don't think it's right, or somebody gets in front of me, or, you know, or whatever, I'm mad. Ah!
Have you always been that way, or is it?
No. I mean, I have a temper, you know, and I will flare off, but nothing like this. It's just, and I know part of it is because of the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go out to eat. I can't, you know, see my friends. I can't do a lot of the stuff that I normally do. Another part of it is the country. I see things that my dad, who was a Pearl Harbor survivor, fought for during World War II and almost died, being mocked, and it just, that really makes me mad, you know.
We are revering the wrong people in our country, I believe. Who else has something to say? Want to share something they're struggling with? Carol?
Can I ask for a volunteer to take over my role as Vanna or whoever? I still have trouble with what happened in Indianapolis and what happened to our family. Our family was put through torture, and I still have a hard time with that. And I know you're supposed to forgive, and I want to forgive, but I don't know. It's hard.
I struggle with unfairness. There's so much unfairness in the world, but it just doesn't seem right that the haves have a lot and the no-haves have nothing. I struggle with that. Why? I mean, why is that?
Carol, you made me think of something. So Pastor Scott, can't believe I said Scott, Pastor Kurt's sermon the last 2 Sundays have been about forgiveness. And I think that the devil doesn't always let us forgive. And I struggle with, if I forgive, if I don't forget, have I really forgiven? You know, or is that the devil in there saying, you know, you can't forgive, you got to remember, you know, remember when that person said that thing?
Yeah, he wants to keep churning, doesn't he? Getting you all churned up and all worked up and just... you know,
And like something that happened, then he keeps going in your brain, yeah, but
Yeah.
he did this or that, or
Yeah.
it just keeps coming back.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, well, let's go on because we're on the first page. Carol, you were right. So I remember hearing, the one thing I do remember hearing about is Moody Bible Study and Moody Bible College growing up, and I had a few friends from my class that I remember went. It says, Dwight L. Moody, a recipient of spiritual warfare through prayer. D.L. Moody, founder of Moody Church and Moody Bible Institute, shared his experience of receiving powerful intercessory prayer with his close friend, R.A. Torrey. We talked one time about the different types of prayer. Does anybody remember what the intercessory, I won't hold it against you because I didn't remember, intercessory prayer was? Yes, exactly, good. In his book, The Power of Prayer, R.A. Torrey recorded Moody's story. I don't have to read and my eyes are kind of not, so could somebody take over and read a little bit?
After the Great Chicago Fire in 1871, Moody made arrangements to feed the poor and to provide for rebuilding of his church. He then left for England, where he wanted to rest and be refreshed, particularly through the teachings of Charles Spurgeon, pastor of New Park Street Chapel in London, and George Mueller, evangelist and director of Ashley Down Orphanage. Although he did not intend to preach at all, he did accept an invitation from his friend, Mr. Leslie, to speak at the morning and evening services in his church north of London. But as he preached that morning, he said, "I had no power, no liberty. It seemed like pulling a heavy train up a steep grade. And as I preached, I said to myself, what a fool I was to consent to preach. I came here to hear others, and here I am preaching." With a heavy heart, Moody went to the evening service. But as he preached, it seemed as if the powers of an unseen world had fallen upon the audience. As I drew to the close of my sermon, I got the courage to draw the net. I asked that all that would then and there accept Christ to rise, and about 500 people rose to their feet. I thought there must be some mistake. So I asked them to sit down, and then I said, "There will be an after meeting in the vestry. If any of you really accept Christ, meet the pastor and me in the vestry." Somebody else want to take over?
Okay, somebody else want to finish, please?
Before Moody and Leslie left for the vestry, Moody repeated the invitation more clearly, and they all arose for a second time. Then he repeated it a third time, and all the people stood again. He still thought that there was some misunderstanding and told the assembly, "I'm going to Ireland tomorrow, but your pastor will be here tomorrow night. If you really mean what you have said here tonight, meet him here." After Moody reached Ireland, he received a telegram from Pastor Leslie telling him that he needed to return because more people came out on Monday night and a revival had begun. Moody hurried back and held a series of meetings that added hundreds of people in North London to the body of Christ. When Moody finished telling this story to his friend, Torrey responded, "Mr. Moody, someone must have been praying." "Oh," he said, "did I tell you that? That is the point of the whole story. There were two sisters in that church, one of whom was bedridden. The other one heard me that Sunday morning. She went home and said to her sister, 'Who do you suppose preached for us this morning?' 'Mr. Moody of Chicago.' No sooner had she said it than her sister turned pale as death and said, 'What? Mr. Moody of Chicago? I have read of him in an American paper, and I have been praying God to send him to London and to send him to our church. If I had known he was to preach this morning, I would have eaten no breakfast. I would have spent the whole morning in fasting and prayer. Now, sister, go out. Lock the door. Do not let anyone come to see me. Do not let them send any dinner. I am going to spend the whole afternoon and evening in fasting and prayer. Tori adds, and pray she did, and God heard and answered.
Hallelujah. Great story. So then we focus again on our enemy. And when D.L. Moody preached on Sunday morning, he described the struggle he had in preaching. I've often wondered that before. Have you? I'm sure you have. That a preacher, how he can get up every Sunday and preach the good news when he's struggling in his own life and dealing with his own pressures. That's because they're really gifted with the Spirit of the Lord. This is one example of the ways our enemy Satan can oppose the truth. What else do these scriptures tell you about Satan? Well, we've covered most of Ephesians, so we're going to look at 1 Peter 5:8. Could someone please read that? I'm almost learning where these are, these books of the Bible, because they're all real close here in the together. And today we probably won't get to it today. We even have Revelation. So it's 1 Peter 5:8. And it's another analogy used for the devil.
Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around you like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour.
Now listen to that language. Devour. And prowling gives me what?
Gives me the creeps.
Yes. And it's like, it gives me like slowly, patiently, just waiting for you to have a space in your heart and then just roaring and devouring you. And that's what sin does, doesn't it? Just devours your every being. Who would like to read 1 John 5:18, 19? And it's almost, well, is it before Revelation, right before Revelation, I think? 18 and 19.
Just 18. We know that anyone born of God does not continue to sin. The one who is born of God keeps him safe, and the evil one cannot harm him.
Okay. My Bible says Christians commit sins, of course, but they ask God to forgive them, and then they continue serving Him. God has freed believers from their slavery to Satan, and He keeps them safe from Satan's continued attacks. The rest of the world does not have the Christian's freedom to obey God. Unless they come to Christ in faith, they have no choice but to obey Satan. There is no middle ground. People either belong to God and obey Him, or they live under Satan's control. It's an interesting statement, isn't there? So there's no gray area there. I mean, it's very black and white. And that, in the midst of many of my sins, that's the way I felt. I felt like I'm all in when I'm sinning, and then trying to be all in when God answers my prayers. I have no idea what time it is. A couple minutes more? Okay, well, let's just go ahead and finish up this section with Revelation 12, 7 through 12. I have not studied the book of Revelation. It has always scared me. I know it's very complex. I know it's very disturbing, but I found a statement that said Revelation is a great source of encouragement to Christians that the Lord will protect them from evil, but unbelievers do not enjoy this privilege. Diana, were you going to say something?
If Revelation ever comes up in BSF again, it's a fantastic study.
Really?
That was
Really?
my first one, and I.
Mm-hmm. Okay, who would like to read 12, 7 through 12? Any volunteers? Okay.
12:7-2. When war broke out in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon and his angels also fought, but he could not prevail, and there was no place for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was thrown out, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the one who deceives the whole world. He was thrown to earth and his angels with him. Then I heard a loud cry in heaven say, "The salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have now come, because the accuser of our brothers and sisters who accuses them before our God day and night has been thrown down. They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives to the point of death. Therefore, rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you with great fury, because he knows his time is short."
The devil is not a symbol of legend. He is very real. Originally, Satan was an angel of God, which we know, but through his own pride, he became corrupt. The devil is God's enemy, and he is constantly trying to hinder God's work. But he is limited by God's power and can do only what he is permitted. I think that's interesting. It says the name Satan means accuser, actively looking for people to attack. Satan likes to pursue believers who are vulnerable. He knows when we're vulnerable, doesn't he? Satan likes to pursue who are vulnerable in their faith, who are spiritually sick, or who are isolated from other believers. Even though God permits the devil to do his work in this world, God is still in control. And Jesus has complete power over Satan. He defeated Satan when he died and rose again for the sins of everyone. One day, Satan will be bound forever, never again to do his evil work. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to remember. And we will continue with this next week. And yes, go ahead. Can't hear you.
Our Sunday school class did a study on Revelation.
Uh-huh.
And it was very good in that it did not look at Revelation as a scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
It looked at it, and it was written by an Englishman, and he compared it to living life now, and that everybody goes through these times, and the world goes through these times all the time. And I really got a lot out of that study. He compared it to, the last century, and he wrote it in, I think it was the 1980s or but it compared for now, it really clicked in.
Mm-hmm.
And it left me with a feeling of not being afraid of what was said in Revelation. And one thing it said is that the Hebrews that he was speaking to, or the Christians that he was speaking to, understood the language as part of the Jewish tradition, that a lot of the symbolism, especially the numbers, was repeated in that time. And so I don't remember those symbolism. My brain doesn't remember things like it used to. But it really made me think that, the 7 times 7 and some of the other, the 666, those were symbols that who he was writing to understood completely. And it was really very well done.
Very interesting. Well, if you did the whole lesson, you're good for next week. And if you didn't, you know you don't ever have to. It's up to you. I'm not going to give homework. And even if you do part of it. But I've got plenty more to say, and I hope you do too. So we'll be back here next week. I need you to pick a number, like you always do. 1 to 100. But let me think of a number. I always call on you, and then I think of the number while I'm calling on you. Okay, I've got it in my head. Suzanne, a number between 1 and 100.
Thank you. Oh, what number? Oh,
A number
765.
No, what is the number?
A number between 1
1
and
to
100.
No, I got enough to do.
Okay.
60. 55.
21.
20.
78.
Pass.
85.
23.
69. 2. 36.
70.
Pass.
16. 30.
Okay, the number was 19. I think I might have heard 20 from Donna. Is that correct? Okay, well, good. I can get some more stuff. Next time you go on vacation, you can have your little travel bag, your change purse. Oh, fall gifts are coming next. Yes, and you ladies, we will all pray for you. Don't wait for us to call you. Yeah, yes. And you guys all have a good week. And we will be back here together again next week. Karen?
I wondered. I needed to contact her, and I thought she'd be here today. I don't know where she is.
Teresa called me on Sunday to let me know about Jeff. I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
He was in the hospital twice, having that back drain.
I know. It's ridiculous.
We haven't heard anything more about Bill, have we?
I have.
All I knew was he had to have 2 more tests.
And I know he had that bone biopsy, but I haven't heard any results or anything.
Thanks for I have no idea, but Aaron, I'm told, will take care of it.
Okay.
So I just don't worry. Thank you.
So I think he was supposed to find out some more stuff.
Love you guys.